Within the earth, from waters blue, fairies are whispering to me and to you.
Hello there, hello there, hello there, hello there.
I'm Claire Casely, the fairy whisperer. In the air of sylvan nights, we'll find our way by fairy light. Fairies whisper throughout the land. It's time to walk hand in hand. To catch a fairy whisper, you have to listen closely. Listen with me. Hello and welcome to the Fairy Whispering Podcast. I'm your host, Claire Casely. As we move towards the autumn equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, the ethereal doorway gradually opens wider, offering us a chance to glimpse into the world of fairies, or even to hear their melodies on the breeze during our nature meanderings. Remember to follow the podcast wherever you listen so you're notified of new episodes. And if you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and give this episode a like. Thank you. In this magical episode of the Fairy Whispering Podcast, I'm excited to explore the world of sound art and opera with the talented Lucinda Guy. Lucinda's latest work, inspired by Robert Herrick's 17th century poem, The Fairy Temple, is set to premiere at Tête, the UK's premier festival of new opera, on Tuesday 23rd of September at the Cockpit Theatre in London. There's a link to tickets in the episode description. Lucinda's artistic practice involves ritual, musical participation and improvisation. She often merges hymns and traditional melodies, exploring themes of landscape and the sacred. As a researcher at Transtechnology Research, University of Plymouth, she investigates the intersection of automation with radio art, pushing the limits of sound. Herrick's poem, describing the temple with small bones instead of walls, evokes visions of enchanting and hedonistic rituals under the silver light of snails. The poem's oscillation between the sublime and the absurd creates a vivid, magical backdrop for Lucinda's opera. This production aims to transport audiences into the captivating realm of fairies, featuring performers who reside near Dean Prior, where Herrick was vicar. The opera will include recordings from his mystical locale, as well as live music that captures the spirit of the fairies. I have known Lucinda personally since 2021, having participated in her audio workshops on Dartmoor for her innovative project, Skylark FM Radio. Those experiences sparked my passion for sound and set me on a journey into podcasting. We recorded at the very church where Herrick preached, nestled in the enchanting surroundings of Dean Prior, Devon. In the second half of the episode, Lucinda describes the church's remarkable acoustics, which blend the sounds of busy traffic into ethereal audio ghosts resembling choral harmonies. We even enjoyed a playful call and response with delightful results. The mingling of external noises and these spectral echoes weaves a hauntingly beautiful atmosphere as we explore Herrick's poetry and the charming world of his fairies. So, shall we sit down to talk about...
where do you feel like
shall we sit in perhaps one of these pews in the middle? Mm-hmm. Make the most of the acoustic
space. Yeah.
So it's comfortable.
Yeah. Nice red velvet cushions and things. Something cosy. Yeah.
We were talking about your opera.
Yeah. It's a sort of opera. It's part of an opera festival. Yeah, this is a church where Robert Herrick was vicar in the 17th century. That's the kind of key thing. So we're in Dean Prior, and he wrote about all sorts of things. And this is writing. He's a poet, but it's writing that was performed. It was read out loud. All those little sketches and things like that. Some was set to music, most of that we don't know now. We don't have record of most of the music of the time, so it's really easy to write music to his texts. They're very musical already, so when I read them, it's usually quite clear to me how I want the music to sound and what kind of things I want to bring out of it. And I'm not trying to write 17th century style music at all. I've been doing all sorts of things, like some are very simple sort of folky songs, some are like electronic music or more experimental, all kinds of things. At that time, opera was sort of emerging, and this other form, oratorio, which is a more religious form and less dramatised. Otherwise, they're quite similar. And they were emerging out of things like Mama's plays that in my mind, are more of a low art form, like a kind of street theatre thing that was around, where you'd get these... religious themed George and the Dragon, or kind of nativity plays, things like that people would do as a sort of amdram, medieval kind of amdram.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a nice in between the Mama's play and the opera. There's a form called masque, which is spelled M-A-S-Q-U-E, and masque is a kind of masked sung theatre. Mm-hmm. So I think what I've written is a sort of masque, as in my performers are masked. It's a sung ritual, and it's not particularly operatic. It uses some elements of opera or oratorio, and it's in some ways it's quite modern or quite simple. And it's based on this whole poem, The Fairy Temple, which is one of Herrick's works that I was drawn to because I was interested in his relationship with this church, and it seemed to me that The Fairy Temple as a poem was one of the ways he was expressing his complex feelings about the church. He talks about being half pagan in it, and I feel like he's a sort of half pagan figure. He celebrated a lot of the folklore around here in Devon, and the spells and charms of everyday life, and the rituals of the harvest, of wassailing, May Day, all these traditions that are being revived a lot at the moment. Mm. And I'm kind of interested in how we can revive his work more around here. He's a really significant poet, and he's probably perhaps been out of fashion for some time because he writes about death, sex and magic that were kind of unfashionable to talk about, and now are not at all. Yeah, his work it would be great for people to take more interest in him now. Things like I'd noticed, there's a lot of wassailing about, but people don't really have many sort of Devon wassail songs. I'm like, well, look, here's one he wrote for us, or so kind of encouraging people to learn some stuff like that over the last couple of years and getting those songs out there. Yes, so, and then The Fairy Temple, which I'm doing is a kind of more one long one. I've been working with, I suppose, lots of short songs of his, and now this is like working with one long one over a whole production. It's going to be about 45 minutes and part of this opera festival in London initially. So.
Yeah, what's the festival called?
Tête. It's been going a long time. It's a festival of new opera, so it's where they really let people try out ideas, all kinds of things.
Brilliant. Yeah. I wish I could make it to that.
Yeah. They do some work across the southwest as well, so it might be possible to do more with them in this area. I don't know yet. But, yeah.
And you've brought the poem.
Oh yeah. I've got it over there. Shall I read you some? Yeah, I'll read you some here and tell you why I like it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, I can sort of sing it a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Do whatever.
In the show, I've got multiple singers, so the pieces are composed for several voices together, generally, not solo, but I can sort of do something similar.
I'm interested as well if you've used any of the sounds from the church, just like the singing voice and
Yeah, definitely. So I a lot of my music practice is responding to space. One thing I did train with Pauline Oliveros, who's like, again, she's kind of quite fashionable at the moment. She died a few years ago, but her practice is called deep listening, and it's all like improvisation, responding to the environment. Oh, there's a lovely sound, and that felt very close to how I suppose because I studied music at Dartington, where you learn a lot of experimental music practices. So things like responding to the environment you're in and composing for it is kind of normal there. So I've spent a lot of time in here listening, recording and improvising. And then I tend to use other rules when I'm writing music that I kind of like, mathematical ones that are of interest to me and things like that. So various things come into it. Yeah, and then a lot of the recordings I've made here are going to be used in production and mixed in live as well. So there'll be sounds from the church, which include just the ambience, but also the road, like recording closer to the road as well as from inside. Improvising with the acoustic, with voices and also with handbells. And then a mixture of all sorts of stuff, really. Sounds from here and other sounds from close by that I've recorded, like on my walks around here, and pick things up then. And hopefully, if it's ready in time, a little bit of video as well will be included of the church, but I haven't made it yet. I don't know if I'll do it. And could I just talk about the opening, if that's all right? So what always makes me absolute goosebumps all over is this opening verse he wrote, which really brings the listener into this universe, this other world of the fairies. Rare temples thou hast seen, I know, and rich for in and outward show. Survey this chapel built alone, without lime or wood or stone. Then say of one thou seen more fine than this, the fairies once, now thine. And just so amazing to feel you could go into an unusual space, a church that's built without stone or wood or anything familiar, and be told this used to be the fairies, but now it's yours. And that gift that he's giving the reader, the listener, the audience, it's just extraordinary. And I can't really say what it is other than that. It's a feel, but it's such a powerful feeling. I'll sing it to you roughly. This is sort of roughly how it goes in. Rare temples thou hast seen, I know, and rich foreign and outward show. Survey this chapel built alone, without lime or wood or stone. Then say if one thou hast seen more fine than this, the fairies once, now thine. It's much nicer with two people in harmony.
That's really moving, hearing it sung.
Yeah. A really nice thing about the mask form that I'm using is that music was either for voice or instruments, but not both at the same time. So all the pieces I'm writing, you'll either hear sung or played on instruments, but not accompanying one another. Oh. Yeah.
Sing it back to you.
Yeah,
So it's just,
the building really loves people singing in it. It's just absolutely delights in it, and it does want to join in. It's great.
oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really fun to work with. So it's a kind of, I guess, in a really corny way, it's a sort of collaboration with the building, the writing.
I don't think it's corny. It's what the building. Oh, you might think it's. I'm sort of sentimental like that. So. Yeah, it's. I mean, that's why people came to this church, wasn't it? To collaborate
with the past,
with the past, with the church, with the
they really deeply connect us to the past, these spaces, because they've been preserved in that open state. And actually, if you think of other historic items, like we're in a medieval space now, like what else around us is medieval? Well, like things in a glass case in a museum that we can't touch.
Yeah.
But actually a preserved medieval space you can walk into and sing and hang out in. It's like, I do feel churches are really important to keep open, not necessarily to promote the views of the Church of England, but as spaces people can connect with the past in. Feels really important to me. I'm not saying I'm against. I'm messing that up. I don't want to sound like I'm against what it stands for. I'm not wholly against. I'm somewhere to the side.
Yeah, well, they're important community spaces, aren't they? Which is something we need increasingly more these days. There's spaces that are for people to come together and connect.
Yes, and they're free, to be free to walk into with no charge, and to be open, and for people to experience in different ways. And my experience lately of that has been coming in and just singing a lot. Just coming into an empty church and singing, which is like, really interesting for me. Yeah. So I wondered if it'd be good to chat about we were talking about what kinds of fairies this might be about.
Yes, that'd be good.
Yeah, so from what I understand, these are not Herrick's interest in fairies. It's not really about Dartmoor pixies. I'm wondering if they were more popular a bit later, sort of Victorian times, than his time, which is 17th century. He was interested in Greek mythology. He's part of that sort of Renaissance wave of the that revived interest in the classics. He seems to sort of mash up beautifully the sort of these different influences, what was going on in Devon around him, the sort of local practices of spells and charms and country rituals, and of rural life. The stuff from the Greek poets that he read and translated, and the sort of literary sort of bed of the time. You think Shakespeare just before. The person he loved was Ben Jonson, who I haven't read. So that's what he talks about a lot. So you think the fairies, they're not so far from Shakespeare's kind of fairies, as in they're sort of quite literary fairies. But what he does with this, which is absolutely fantastic, is relate their world very closely to insects. We know that he loved what we now call nature, as in plants, animals. He's got this quality of looking at things quite closely. So this poem is full of materials from these kind of insect world, bits of flies' wings, and sort of the fairies in it seem to find things like beetles, but also discarded human things. My favourite line of the whole thing is dried chips, old shoes, rags, grease and bones. which is part of a verse where he's talking about the rituals they're performing, and they are there sort of magpie-like, collecting bits, things humans discard, and then venerating them in their service, which is just like such a lovely idea that's both like very beautiful and very absurd and comical. And it's that, what I'm finding in it is this sort of oscillation of, you know, the sublime and the ridiculous, this kind of this sort of comical, quite disgusting language, and this really extraordinarily beautiful, he used a lot of words like glittering and shimmering kind of textures in it. Spangle work of dew, he says, and frost work glittering on the snow, and these kind of like images that resonate in my mind of this very high frequency sound, sparkling light. And actually in the space we're in, the thing I'm always drawn to in here is that they've placed a vase of honesty on the table there, on this very, very nice, very old carved wooden table that may have been around when he was. And there's a vase of those dried flowers, honesty, which are like, you know, translucent discs. That for me is very much the atmosphere of this poem in that object there. It's my favourite thing in the church at the moment. When I come in, I always take photos of it and look at it a lot, and I've been recording actually those make a lovely sound as well.
Yes. Papery, crispy sound.
And that's a lot. The atmosphere of this poem is very. The fairies are maybe part of the sort of the natural world of insects and plants, and they've got their own quite surreal kind of temple that's not, you know, he says it hasn't got any corners, it's not square or triangular, it's more complex than that, it's more stuff. They make things out of bones and all these different materials, bits of dried apple, and so it conjures up this whole kind of world of discarded objects and materials. And the other big aspect of that's really present in the poem is like death and bereavement. So a lot of our experiences of death are going through objects, and you know, the process of bereavement is often going through somebody's things, finding things. So that's something I'm drawing out a lot from this poem, because I was really feeling that presence in all the materials he describes. And then it's only like last week, I've been working with this poem for ages, that I noticed what it's actually about, which can happen when you're working with an older work. It can take you a long time to get to the point sometimes, reading and rereading, reading it out loud, setting it to music, singing it, and then you're like, oh. And the whole poem is it centres around the ritual for them to select their new pope. And they're doing that because the previous one's just died. So he very elegantly doesn't start by saying that. He lets us discover it. It's not till near the end. There's just this one line, the only mention of that death. And since, I'll just find the right page. I don't want to get it wrong. And since the last is dead, there's hope elf Boniface shall next be pope. And at that point, you kind of realise, oh, of course, everything up to then these fairies are grieving, and he doesn't make it explicit. It's just implied through these handling of materials and the atmosphere. And this happens when you're working on a creative project of some kind. You usually realise that your life is mirroring it perfectly. And my dad just died last week, unexpectedly. He was old, but it was completely unexpected. He's in very, very good health. And it wasn't till then that I understood this poem. And obviously the Pope is a father figure. And so is Herrick. And actually, in the last couple of years while I've been working with Herrick, my dad sang in a couple of events that I've done. He came down here in his late 80s and sang here in the church with us a song that I'd written. And I really wanted him in the performance because I wanted the bit of old man spirit in the Herrick work, not just, it felt like, oh, I need an elderly man, because we're talking about a poet who died, 400 years ago, and 350 years ago actually last year. And I needed that energy of an elder, as we might say now, in the work. So I wrote a song, this song from a poem. It's about the end of the winter and the beginning of the spring. It's a very beautiful poem. But in that poem, Herrick likens the coming of spring to the potential for peace after war. So he was living through war, as we are now, and he wrote that if winter can end, war can end. And that felt really powerful for me.
Oh gosh, that is powerful.
Yes. Yeah. It's another thing that just makes me tingle all over thinking about it, or want to cry.
Yeah, definitely.
So his work is really relevant, really important at the moment, I think, in that you can find, because he wrote so much stuff, you can find anything you need in it.
Yes.
In this character, and he's such an interesting character, Herrick, because he's a hedonist. He's very much in favour of sex, drinking, parties, eating cake, going out, having a good time, basically. He writes a lot about women's bodies and a lot about being at the thing. So he's he's kind of easy to understand in that way.
And fairies are hedonistic as well, so he's got a sort of a parallel there with them, with the nature of fairies and how they
don't play by the rules, do they?
No.
Yeah, they can copulate anywhere, or dance anywhere, and eat and be free. I think maybe that. Do you think that's why people needed them so much?
Maybe. Yeah, I think they serve lots of purposes, really. There's that freedom of spirit that people have always wanted to express, with the dancing and the feasting, and fairies are obviously quite often represented doing those things when people discover them. Stumble into their places, they're junketing, aren't they? Having a good time. People get swept into that dance with them. So I think they represent that, and also I suppose a materialistic, rationalistic way of explaining it would be that people needed them to explain things that they couldn't understand at the time, that didn't have answers.
Ineffable. Yes, and the people say that aliens serve some of that purpose for people. Now, don't the UFOs and aliens have stepped into some of the role, but I do feel they've got a very different vibe.
I think they do. And there's new ideas now that everything it's all the same thing, that it all crosses over. So it's interesting. But and you were saying about Herrick's love-hate relationship with Devon and his humour, which I found really interesting.
Yes.
Saying earlier about
Dean Burn. There's several poems. Discontents in Devon is one, and then a fairly one about the Dean Burn, which is the stream that runs by here through Dean Prior and into Buckfastleigh. He's very insulting about it. Apparently, there's a story that when he left Devon, he sort of stood by and proclaimed this poem about, never want to come back, basically, and that this stream is so coarse, just like these people around here. The thing to bear in mind is that he was a royalist, and this is the time of the Civil War. And I haven't read enough on this yet. I don't want to come and pretend like some fake expert, because I'm really not at all. My understanding is that the royalists are in favour of the party, as in partying. Not, I can put that better, because it sounds like I'm really a political party. Royalists were in favour of having a good time, and the parliamentarians were much more austere, and they wanted to see a sort of rural life that without all those festivals and things that give meaning to what we do. They thought people should just be farming in the countryside and not having all these celebrations. I can't really see how you can have one without the other. It doesn't work. I don't know how you know what you were doing. And the royalists were like the Arts Council is now, supporting writers, poets, musicians, theatre, all this stuff. So it makes perfect sense, really, then, to understand. That's how I've come to understand, because people often ask me, oh, but hang on, he's a vicar, and then he's writing about all this stuff, like, and it's like, well, to us it might seem like a mismatch, but it wouldn't then, because it's all part of the celebratory way of living. So whether that's about the king, the church, the fairies, the party, the girlfriends, whatever, it's actually, that's where he's at, and it's all connected. In the Civil War, there was, you know, these 10 years when we didn't have a monarchy, and he was in London then, and I think the you know, these poets and artists kind of went underground, but they kept in touch with each other. After that, after the interregnum, he came back to Devon, and he was here to the end of his life. So though he says on several occasions how much he doesn't like it, we can speculate that he was also extremely fond of living around here. And there's many poems that express that dual thing, really. There's one I love singing, which is called The Wake. A wake at the time was just any kind of party, festival. It wasn't just after a death.
Oh, okay.
So the wake, he's saying to one of his maybe imaginary girlfriends, come on, let's go, and he lists the things that will be happening there. So there'll be Morris dancers, there'll be someone dressed as Maid Marian, and there'll be, you know, sort of theatre things going on, and then there'll be like a big drunken brawl, and at the end of the day, everyone will be looking forward to it happening all again next year. It's very relatable for like Devon life now, I think. And it's this funny kind of like half cynical, half like he wants to be there. He wants to be there, partly so he can laugh at the Morris dancers, you know, but he does want to be there. So it's not distaste. He doesn't. Yes, he probably thinks he's superior to them. He's an educated Londoner from a jeweller family, but he also wants to be part of it very much. And that comes up throughout his work, really. And in some ways, he is us. We're outsiders looking at 17th century rural life, going, oh, what's going on there? And he is too. He's from London, coming into here. So though his outsider status is geographical and ours is time, it's very similar in a lot of ways. He's looking at this world, people, you know, their practices, like these superstitions and things that he clearly found quite amusing. You know, he's not saying burn the witch, he's just saying like, look at this, people think if you do this will happen. That's understandable, I think, for us, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you travel to anywhere in the world, to a different culture, you know, even today. I can see, as an artist, I can see where that inspiration will come from, and it's been happening for centuries, hasn't it? So he's got that privilege of being an observer, and being able to. And what's lovely is that it inspired him so much that he had to express it through these wonderful poems.
Masses of work which we can now like reuse in loads of different ways or bring back to life, you know, through, I mean, a lot of my performance work is very ritual based, so it's kind of like singing and doing, making things happen. And I like that there's these very functional texts that are written to make a thing happen in the world. So they perform an action. So that might be wassailing, or there's a Twelfth Night poem that describes the process of, you know, you hand around a cake and it's got a pea and a bean in it, and those people become king and queen of Twelfth Night, and then and it's a song you sing to do that, to make that happen. So I really like that they're so functional, a lot of these texts. This one, Fairy Temple, is slightly sideways. It's a description, it's a narrative description. So that's brought up certain interesting problems with what I've wanted to do is dramatise it, because it's a step removed from the drama. But we're going to have a lot of fun, because we're making costumes that are like very insect-like. So these sort of hooded robes people would have worn for churches, and they still do, you know, a robe. But I'm making the hoods come down over the face into a sort of insect mask.
Oh, wow.
And then, and I'm just using like this like glittering green fabric, and then very neutral fabrics, white and cream beige, and then some of this shimmering green, like a beetle's wing kind of colour. Yeah, so it's kind of fun to play with this insect-like fairy world. And also, not being too literal, like doing actions in the performance that aren't the same as the ones in the text, because the text can carry it. We don't need to do what the text is saying. It's very strong, and people can imagine. I'm trusting if an audience turn up, they'll be able to imagine it from the words, because they're so great. They don't need us to do the same thing. So in the words, that would be pointless, really.
Yes.
Be too much and too silly. So the actual action's very minimal. We just do very simple, small things, and it's all in the words.
And this is performed in London.
Yeah.
In a couple of weeks' time, isn't it?
Yeah, 23rd of September, Tuesday evening, in the Cockpit Theatre, which is great. It's great because it's so different from this space, and to superimpose this space into it through the sounds we're using in the work. So we're turning that space into this space, sort of layering them together, which is one of the great things you can do with sound recording, is put a space into another space. That would be really interesting, and in a way as well, to bring Herrick to London, which is where he strongly identified with. So bring him from here to there, and connect the two places up.
Yeah, that's a lovely, energetic kind of exchange, isn't it, of bringing that creativity back to the source. I love that symbolism.
So that he grew up. It says here, doesn't it? His family from Leicestershire, but he was educated in London, certainly, and his friends were there. He was missing London a lot, I think, when he was here. I don't know if he missed Devon when he's in London, probably.
More pubs in London.
Yes, and he does write about pubs as well. Yeah, it's very. There were a lot of pubs around here. Which he would have known. Yeah, I just feel like we should be talking about him all the time around here. It's like this is his village we're in now, and there's very little presence really of him. In the church here, there's one window there with his image on. There's a few mentions around the building, but it's quite minimal. But even outside of here, in Dean Prior, Buckfast Lee, there's really very little. And that needs thinking about quite a bit, I think, how to sort of revive him carefully and meaningfully where we are, and to connect with the other people and places that are interested in his work.
Those connections are, I think, increasingly important, aren't they? I mean, from a historical point of view and culturally, everything, really.
Yeah.
There's less people talking about the church, less people coming to church. There's less of an exchange, a cultural exchange on a one-to-one basis, isn't there? There's lots online these days, but the chances of actually stumbling across this is very...
I was talking about my sister last night, because we're both really upset by the rise of racism and these sort of very misplaced ideas of what being patriotic is. And I feel a way forward, a way towards healing, is a better connection with our landscape and with our culture and our past, and more confidence in that, because national character emerges from landscape, from geography. There's no threat to national character from people moving from one country to another. That's completely not real. And the best way to cope with these changes is to together, all of us, including everyone who's come here recently, as well as whose family's been here for generations, whatever, and not just in Devon but across our country and others, is to show that care and trust for one another through our connection to place and our love for place.
Yes. Yeah.
and trust that being English, when what is England? Well, it's a place. So clearly, it's a place. So all the answers are in the place. It's not in, or what national identity or any sort of nonsense like that. It's not in that kind of stuff. It's in the land, fundamentally. And so everybody who is on this piece of land is of it, and can connect with it. It doesn't matter if you've been here 1 minute or 1,000 years. It really doesn't matter at all, because this is when you're in a place, the spirit of that place can work with you and through you and with one another and connect us and make meaning. And I really feel that meaning needs to come through quite careful care for and consideration of our sort of heritage spaces and our landscape and our natural environment, as our biodiversity, and how we celebrate and care for it. So through our poets and our churchyards and our buildings and our insects and our trees and our rivers, that's how we heal this horrible thing where people are dividing themselves into groups, which is really not what being human is, or being English is, or being anything is. We're not separate from one another at all. It's absurd to think that there's an us here and a you, them and there, or it's just completely bizarre, and it's being exploited. And these things, the connection back to through our literature and our spaces. And as and I mean, Herrick's just one of many examples of neglected literature.
Definitely.
And he had a very deep connection to all this other stuff. One of my favourite things is that he wrote about his pet sparrow, who was called Philip. And just the thought of him with this pet sparrow, and that people closely befriended wild species in that way, a really intimate way to like have a strong relationship with them that we might have with a dog or something now. He had dogs and cats too. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about, and that for me is a way of how we get out of this mess we're in, basically, because we're in a hideous mess where people are, it seems to be acceptable to be sort of frighteningly racist at the moment, and it's really troubling. And I think there's a way forward which is not further division, which is not naming and shaming the people using that harmful language, but back to that deeper connection with one another, that deeper care for one another through care of place.
Yes. Oh God, yeah. We have to. We are nature.
We are each other. We all are each other.
Yeah.
We all are the earth. Like, we're not walking on the earth. We are it.
Yes.
We're part of it. Like, it's kind of very clear. And that there aren't borders are not a thing, but land is a thing. Land and water are absolutely real, and they have there isn't really the right word for it. The way soul moves through humans, buildings, earth. And allowing it to move, and allowing that allowing us to love each other properly and not be fearful, and not be defensive.
Yes.
And allowing us to love, other species, and buildings and spaces properly. These are the interesting problems, and this is my way forward to heal everybody. It's like come and sit in an empty church and sing, or like look at the insects.
Yeah, I mean, many churches in Devon, such as, I know, Tragford Church, they have that as for musical performances. They have celebrate the pagan festivals there, don't they? Mm-hmm. So it feels like that's the way forward for these beautiful spaces that, you know, they need to be used for more diverse.
Yes, definitely.
Activities. I mean, this is just an amazing space, isn't it? I mean,
there's no one static tradition in the church. You think how different things like the sort of rituals and practices and the songs have been in the lifetime of a church like this, roughly 1,000 years. We wouldn't recognise. There's no one, but that's traditional. A lot of people's idea of tradition is what they remember from their childhood. Oh, the world is like this.
Yes.
And if they're born in 1950, then the world is like 1950, and I was born in 1973. And obviously sometimes I think the world's like this, and it would be based on 1973. And then I'll spot, you have to notice yourself doing these things. And then it's also like all these other things, like since then and before then. And in a constant process of change and
Yes. So, I mean, Herrick's work, it's timeless in lots of ways. You were talking about how it's, apart from the odd archaic word, you might go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But,
and then you can have fun looking them up.
Yeah.
And like,
if you handed that to somebody that didn't know his work, would they get meaning from it?
Some of it. Yeah. A lot of it, I think. I think it can help to sing it, because then you can put some of that contemporary interpretation back in through the song. And it's easier to remember songs than poems. A lot of the time, people learn a song, they remember it. There's a lot of songs I've been teaching people. I could maybe sing you another short one. The Good Luck round. Everybody's favourite one to sing is, I wrote a very simple round based on this poem, The Coming of Good Luck. I'll sing it to you. I'll just back off your microphone, sing as loud as I'm talking.
I'll move back here.
So good luck came, and on my roof did light, like noiseless snow, or as the dew of night, not all at once, but gently as the trees are by the sunbeams tickled by degrees. And we sing it as a round with people. Oh. And then because then you sing it over and over, and then you're like, it means it, and it's just, he plays with the word order for this poetic quality. So not all at once, but gently as. And then you imagine the comma, as the trees are tickled by the sunbeams. Then you can find you can relate to it better as you sing it. And I just love this concept that luck sort of just gently comes back. And maybe you've been through a hard time, and then you start to feel it. You start to feel the good luck, and it's just like snow very softly on your roof that you barely know is happening, and the light on the trees, and that's good luck coming back into your life.
Oh, it's beautiful. I think I've sung that with you.
Oh yes, that's where I first worked on that one. That was we did,
and
on a walk.
Similar weather. Yes, wasn't it? It was very misty.
That was in a way that's when I got going with this whole singing Herrick thing.
Okay.
That was probably one of the first things by Herrick I set to music, and it's one that's sustained the best. Like now a lot of people have learned it and sung it in lots of different places, and that's good. But it's such an incredible text, and it's singing it is one way to get it going again. It's not and you remember these they were published on the page. Poetry wasn't for the page then. It was absolutely for reading out loud. I did hear people only started reading in their heads in like Victorian times. It's very modern. Reading silently in your mind is very new.
Yes.
So we didn't read like that. We read to one another. And that changes the whole idea of what a book is. A book is a sort of instrument for people to kind of give each other care.
Yeah. I love that. I just thought about an anecdote about Alfred Lord Tennyson, because his poems were very long, and reading his poems, and they'd go on for hours. It's a wonderful thing to receive, to be a witness to, what it was meant to be, to be received in that way. Yeah. You were saying about the theory of affect.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel underqualified to say it.
Well, I'd never heard about it before, so it was really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably easiest to relate to where we are right now. So I've got my hand on the wooden pew here, which has been beautifully polished by the church warden and another volunteer earlier this morning. You can feel the polish on it. Affect builds up in spaces and in objects through the repeated handling and use of them by different people, which is why, maybe you pick up something that's old and you go, ooh. And it has an effect on you. It's very, and it's kind of quite well recognised in things like holy objects, or conversely, kind of, less ones that don't make us feel so good. Maybe they feel possessed or harmful, sort of creepy. That's another kind of affect. It's also well known in medicine, like placebo affect, which is like things like the packaging, the ritual of being given a pill, taking a pill, meeting with someone who wears a white coat. All those have healing properties that are well documented. But in the context of this church, but there's a lot of very effective objects and things that have these kind of layers of meaning and use over a very long time, and use within ritual and that are cared for, and that we experience that when we touch and see and encounter these objects. We kind of experience that stuff. We might experience as a sort of tuning in to other people, to memory, or to like feeling kind of serene or blessed or spiritual or frightened, or the other thing about affect is that you can see it as similar to emotion, but it's generally experienced by many people, whereas emotion is much more individualistic. I can be angry and you could feel frightened. Affect would be we both feel, let's say, holy or something. Or excited, so it relates to emotion, but it's much more collective. And again, this is helpful, the thing I mentioned before, we are each other, and we need collective experiences to remind us that we are each other. So it's also a way back to that much more ecological sense of one another and of place, through shared experience. I think where it becomes tricky in a space like a church is when people start to connect that to an ideology, whereas actually it's much more powerful when the meaning is mysterious. We don't need to say, I'm experiencing this amazing holy feeling, therefore vote for that person and tell that person they're wrong, or we don't need to attach that stuff to it. It's actually when we experience mystery or serenity, those are valid because of what they are. They don't, and sometimes people will sort of exploit them by trying to attach them to an ideology or a way of thinking or a political idea. Don't need that so much. We need to experience them for what, their full power, really, for what they are.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, from the world I'm from, just relating it to that being, speaking to people about fairies, and there are researchers that focus on UFOs, and then there are researchers that focus on cryptids and Bigfoot and things. And no, it's a different thing. And there's more of us realising it's all part of the same. These experiences, they all overlap. they all have commonalities, you know.
And we're also using it in very small ways all the time within our homes, within the objects in our homes, and how we pass them around, what we want to keep, what we can't bear to get rid of. These are very everyday things as well. Not all affect theories applied to, you know, I mean, this is a very strong space in that sense. We're in church, but it's also happening, in lots of very mundane ways. How people feel about their car or a spoon or something like that.
Yes.
You know, this is going on all the time. I always think a lot about, you know, when sometimes you see a child's favourite teddy, and then when you touch it, you're like, oh. I always used to say, there's some that the child gives it a soul. And again, that's really through this handling, through it being handled a lot. These teddies sort of acquire soul, they acquire mind. And that, I mean, that's sort of happening in very clear ways, such as there's a lot more living material in them, like bacteria and fungi and stuff that pass between the child and the teddy, which are things that are doing a lot more communication and movement in the teddy than is happening when it's brand new on a shelf in the shop. For example, there's a lot more life in it, so you know there is more communication through the object and between the object and the human, due to all that sort of stuff going on.
Yeah, we are giving it part of ourselves.
Yeah. And it's giving back, and then it gives that, maybe it's an object that communicates that between the child and the parent sometimes, or,
Thank you, Lucinda. I was wondering if we could finish. I thought a nice way to finish would be if you could sing something.
Sing a little bit more fairy temple.
So, that'd be great.
And like I say, they're not solo songs, so
I know.
it gives you a little idea of it.
Sure. Shall we stand up?
I'm going to try to sing you some of this last. I'm trying to sing up into the ceiling. So
good.
This is the last. I'll sing you some of the last song that's
stand here.
They have their cups and chalices, their pardons and indulgences, their beads of knit spells, books and wax, candles forsooth and other knacks, their holy oil, their fasting spittle, their sacred salt here, not a little, dry chips, old shoes, rags, grease, and bones, dry chips, old shoes, rags, grease, and bones, beside their fumigations, to drive the devil from the codpiece of the friar of work and odd peace. I won't go on any further than that, but I love it ending on the codpiece of the friar. The odd friars. It might show you a little bit of this feeling of humour, disgust, discarded objects, ritual, beauty, that all come together so fantastically in this poem.
It's wonderful. And I just heard a little bit of the ghostly voice there up in the corner.
And it actually, the very end of this, the whole work, they've just anointed their new pope, and reverently departeth thence, hid in a cloud of frankincense, and by the glowworm's light well guided, goes to the feast that's now provided. So we just end just before the party, and there is another poem that's is the feast, which I would love to work with in the future to make it much. If it does become a sort of full sort of opera or oratorio work, it would be nice to have these different acts.
Yes, it would.
Yeah. So there's a lot more. There's a lot more in it. There's the whole fairy feast poem, which I haven't really looked at yet, but yeah, it's lots of fun anyway. Lots of fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time today. It's been amazing meeting you. And,
thank you. It's really nice.
It's given me a better kind of or broader understanding of this poem and Herrick, definitely. And
yes. And of course, all this affect theory really applies to, I was saying about the materials in the poem. These are very effective materials of this, bits of insects and old shoes.
yeah. In this next part of the episode, I will share our conversation about the unusual acoustic properties of the church at Dean Prior, which creates what Lucinda describes as audio ghosts. We recorded this when we first arrived at the church, and the two church cleaners were just leaving. You will hear their voices in the background to start with. Once we were alone in the church, Lucinda replicated some of the audio experiments that she had previously carried out in the church with call and response. We moved to different areas of the church, and Lucinda sang verse from Herrick's poetry. Sometimes there is a response to her singing, and other times to the noise from the nearby motorway. I found the whole process fascinating, and I am sure you will too. I was especially amazed that after mentioning a previous experience where I recorded what sounded like an ethereal female voice singing in another location, that the church appeared to respond to my replication of that voice. I recommend listening with headphones to the episode so that you can fully appreciate the audio responses and the atmosphere of the church.
You can hear them, they're talking.
I can pick that up.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, someone could come in here and the building's humming like really a lot, like a human voice, and everybody in with notices it. It's really clear. And then we've been improvising and singing back to it, and it really invites that. But then church spaces do really invite singing. They're kind of designed for it, aren't they? And it's got a great acoustic. And that acoustic seems to be very fond of the sounds of the A38 rattling by on certain days. Perhaps not today with the wet surfaces, that seems to have changed it a lot. And then it really comes alive in a way.
In your experience, Lucinda, what's the best place to stand for the acoustics?
I really like this corner where the organ is. Side of the church. We can hear the road.
Yes.
Hear the A38, which is such a big part of the personality of this church. And then this section, obviously the ceiling's a bit lower here, so you get a little different tones come out than in the main parts. Oh, it's doing it.
Singing.
Yeah.
That's a woman singing.
No, it's a church singing. That's it.
Wow.
It's around that, wasn't it? Yeah, do you see it? Sings back, yeah.
Really faintly. Just wondering whether I need to turn this. No, I'll just leave
It
it.
may not record, it's tricky. It's the sort of sound you have to experience live, I think.
It sounded like it's coming from over
It did this time, didn't it? Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you heard a bit of it. So yeah, it can really do a lot sometimes. It's kind of unpredictable.
Is it the sound of the road, or is it your voice sort of reverberating? Where is it coming from?
What I think is if you picture that the road, the traffic noises are across a lot of frequencies, it's very kind of broad frequencies. Some of those frequencies will match the acoustic of the building particularly well. So in spaces with hard walls, certain frequencies reverberate a lot more than others, so the building will amplify just certain tones out of the road, and those will be because the building will have a frequency, those will play a harmonic series, which is a set of notes that become like this very nice little melodies that can occur. So that's what I've found to be happening here, is you'll get a certain vehicle will go past with a nice big roar. The building will, though we hear all of that roar, the building will amplify certain notes in it, so we'll get really nice tones coming through. And sometimes those will play a melody, because the harmonic series is like they're all the related frequencies which can happen together. So you'll hear these little kind of it's like a human voice sort of humming and singing in the space, made up of the way that the building interacts with the road.
Right.
But on that basis, as I said to you before, that doesn't make it not a ghost. It makes it a type of ghost.
Yes.
But that explanation doesn't take anything away from the haunted qualities of the building. It's it actually needs those for that to occur. It needs this whole thing, like this beautiful space. Well, that was a lovely sound. And I found if you sing into it, it starts to sing back, and I think that's to do with me and others I've been with tuning in better. Like if you sing to a space, you're listening, you notice, you get this kind of nice escalation. And obviously if we move in the space, that creates sounds that start to reverberate and bring it to life a bit. So it can build up, you can get this build up of noise. There's these really beautiful noises.
I'm just wondering, before we start talking about your opera and Herrick
And Fairies.
if we could just experiment for a few minutes. Is that okay? I mean, I could stand in different place away from you, where I'm hearing the sound coming from, and do what you usually do with sounds, singing, and to see what happens. So I'm just fascinated by it.
Have a listen. If I do, I might try and repeat things like that.
Okay. I'm going to stand at the back of the church near the bells. Stand here, in the middle.
suggest you should try popping in here on a dry day.
Yeah.
You'll hear it. It sounds very different sometimes. It does all sorts of things.
Does it whistle back?
Sometimes it's more like a humming, usually like a humming type voice. I think, but I think I perceive it as voice because I'm used to voices are what I hear in churches. Normally, we go into churches and people sing. So the church acoustic I associate with voice.
Yes.
This sort of type of sound is a voice type sound for me, because the other sound we often hear in the church is the organ playing or the bells ringing, and because this is soft, and obviously the organ will play on lots of notes at the same time, a voice is much more monophonic, with a, so that's what it feels close to. And obviously we tend to read things as human presence a lot, as this sort of apophenia idea where we see faces and things and hear voices and things, It's a very, it's a fantastic space though, with it,
I've experienced it at Emsworthy Barn on Dartmoor. I don't know whether that was acoustic but I picked it up on my recorder when I was interviewing someone who was sat outside the barn. And we'd just been in the barn, and then we were sat outside, and I captured it sounded very much like a woman humming. So that's interesting, coming here and hearing that.
Yes, yeah, I mean buildings can speak. Oh, that was a nice one. And you can hear clearly how it came with a vehicle on that occasion, and most of the vehicles we hear aren't doing that. Some have the right shape, movement to generate that kind of thing happening. I think the best day we were here, we think there were probably a lot of bikes, like motorbikes on the road. They were particularly, that's beautiful sound. That sounds more external, that. So you get these high harmonics in traffic noise already, but this space really brings them to life. It's fantastic.
I really felt that as well. You can feel it going through your body.
Yes, I keep feeling vibrating through my left foot on the floor. It's really tingling. It's it's full of different energies. This space, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah. Thank you to Lucinda for sharing so passionately about Herrick, his poetry, and her work with sound, and her process of creating the Fairy Temple Opera. As I said before, tickets are available on the website for the Cockpit Theatre, and the link is in the description of this episode. Remember to follow the podcast wherever you listen, so you're notified of new episodes, and if you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and give this episode a like. Thank you. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye for now.
They have their cups and chalices, their pardons and indulgences, their beads of knit spells, books and wax, candles forsooth and other knacks, their holy oil, their fasting spittle, their sacred salt here, not a little, dry chips, old shoes, rags, grease, and bones, dry chips, old shoes, rags, grease, and bones, beside their fumigations, to drive the devil from the codpiece of the friar of work and odd peace.
captured, it sounded very much like a woman humming.
Yeah, I mean, buildings can speak. Oh, that was a nice one.